welcome everybody. My name is Avinash Gorakshakar and I welcome everybody to the Connoxia Corporate Insight Show. Friends, today we will be talking about a very interesting company which has got a very long history of existence and a very good financial track record. The company's name is Pioneer Embroideries Limited. In fact, this company was started about 30 years back in 1991 and is a very well established manufacturer of specialty yarn, branded fabrics, as well as branded saris by the name of Hakoba, which all of us might be aware. So, today we'll have the privilege of talking to Mr. Harshavardhan, who's the managing director of this company, and know little more in detail about the company's prospects, about its future plans, and obviously which will help all of us, gain insights into the company. So, without wasting time, I would like to, welcome Mr. Harshavardhan, sir. Sir, you're welcome to the show, and I would again like to thank you for spending your quality time here. So, friends, without wasting time, we'll start the question answer session.
Thank
Sir,
you, Avinash.
before we start the Q&A session into specific data points, I would like to know from you, basically, some sort of background about the journey of this company. It's a pretty old company. If you can share some, insights of how this business started, what is the current business mix, and what is the roadmap, at least in the near term. The numbers have come out, so all of us are aware of the financial numbers. So if you can share your thoughts, please.
Thank you, Avinash. So the company was started way back in 1991, and it started primarily as an embroidered fabric and lace manufacturing company. And we set up our first plant in Gujarat, in Saregaon, in 1994. From there onwards, the journey it's been a pretty eventful journey. And so we started as being an embroidery manufacturer. Over the years, then we delved into something called bobbin lace. So we set up a bobbin lace facility. We then ventured towards south. We set up a embroidery and lace manufacturing facility in south in Coimbatore, and then added another embroidery plant in Silvassa. So in embroidery, we currently have 3 factories, and in about 2007, we sort of diversified into specialty polyester yarn segment. SPFY, as we call it, Specialty Polyester Filament Yarn segment. And we set up a greenfield project in Kalam in Himachal. So it was a start where the thought process was that yes, we wanted to diversify, but we wanted to diversify in a field which was totally not French to us. We knew about yarn, we use yarn in our embroidery, but then it was supposed to be totally an independent thought. So we set it up in 2007. From that time, where initially we started with a capacity of 4,500 tons per annum, to today where the capacity is about 18,000 tons per annum. And so where we started with basic yarn manufacturing in 2007 to now where we have 1,200 plus colors. We are doing flame retardants, antimicrobials, absolute gamut of value added yarns. So that's basically sort of been the journey for us as far as the business is concerned in a nutshell.
Mr. Harshavardhan, as you mentioned, you got 2 main line of businesses, specialty yarns and the embroidery business. We would like to know, what is the company's positioning in these segments, because obviously the embroidery segment is a very specialized niche segment. The specialty yarn segment is also a very niche and a, specialty kind of area. So what is the market positioning and what are the growth areas, say over the next, say 2 to 3 years? If you can say, what are the special initiatives, which the company has undertaken, to reach this position, and going forward, how do you plan to enhance this position, say over the next, say couple of years?
So, as far as the embroidery segment is concerned, right now, this year, the embroidery growth was quite subdued because, there's been a basic downturn in the textile and ready-made segment. So, we didn't see much growth there, rather there was a fall. So, then there we have an inherent space. So, next 2 years, we do see a lot of space where the embroidery can grow. And, we are going to be taking initiatives as we are looking to modernize our plants and do a lot of optimization in terms of how we operate and where we operate. There's a thought which is being given to sort of fundamentally change a few things. So we are quite certain that is one segment where we will see a very good growth. Especially we also have a retail brand called Hakoba, and we plan to give it a lot of focus. We have recently started our online foray as well for Hakoba, and we've been launching. We've already launched 2 collections of fabrics. Incidentally, the last one was launched about a week back, where we launched our organic fabric collection online. So there we see a lot of scope for growth as far as embroidery is concerned, a larger growth per se between the embroidery last year and next 2 years. As far as the specialty yarn segment, polyester yarn segment is concerned, we will definitely continue to grow, and we've been growing quite well, and we hope to maintain the same level of growth or better. And as you know, we are sort of a niche player in that segment. We cater to a market which needs certain specialized products, which we've sort of mastered over the years. So we are doing flame retardants, antimicrobials. We are doing N2 and air texturized yarns, and we are doing customized packages for them in various colors. We are able to do about 1,200 plus colors. So there we, and obviously there is would be scope of growth which comes directly in, once we expand our capacities as well. So one, the normal growth which will come, everything remaining the same, and then there is another set of growth which can come once we expand our capacity. So both the segments we see there's a lot of promise that it holds going forward.
Okay, Mr. Harshvardhan, I think one question regarding your specialty yarn business, which I would like to ask, is that this is also a niche segment, but we have seen many companies in the home furnishing, home textile space come out with excellent numbers. In fact, both for the domestic as well as for the export markets. So going forward, what is the kind of thought process on this product? Can we expect better numbers from the company over the next, say, 1 or 2 years, considering that this is a very big opportunity, and you all definitely are a well established player here? So any thoughts on this this business as a whole for the next couple of years, like?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. There's been a huge demand from the home furnishing segment, both in terms of upholstery, tapestry, or even floor coverings. And we do see this market playing a big role in our performance. You see, if I were to break my performance on a scale of 100, so for us, 40 is domestic, 40 is indirect export, which indirect when I say we supply to the exporters who convert it into carpets or upholstery and then export, and 20 is direct export. So this 60% of the export element is going to be very, very important for us, and we do see a lot of opportunity there, and we are absolutely ready to grab it.
You mentioned about the retail business, sir. I mean, if you can tell us something about the retail business, does it mean that the company has got some retail outlets where these products are sold? If you could please clarify.
Yes, we a very small segment actually. We have about 5 stores, but for now, and we are also selling online. So we have our own website, hakoba.in, where we recently launched our organic fabric range. Also before that, we had launched another range. So we keep on coming up with different kind of products, which we launch both online and offline. But it's been largely it's part of Pioneer only, and it's been largely subdued for some time. Again, for various reasons. At one point of time we did have a lot of stores, but over the years, we had pared it down, and because of other reason, and we were focusing a lot on our yarn business. But now, once the yarn is really well established, and we see a clear path way forward for our yarn business, now we feel it's the time that we could concentrate on embroideries and also build the brand up, Hakoba brand up.
Okay. Mr. Harshvardhan, tell me one thing, that what is the product that is Silcolate? I was reading your annual report and your conference call transcript. Now, if you can just tell us little more about this product and how significant has this product been in your product mix in terms of top line, in terms of profitability. So if you can share some thoughts here.
So Silcolite, actually, Avinashi, it's the brand under which we sell our polyester yarn. The entire gamut of the yarn which comes sells under this brand. So Silcolite, for us, there are not too many brands in the commodities yarn segment, but we, since we had we sort of had a foray into branding and retail and all that. From day one, we had this thing in mind to sort of do this business a little different. And for us, Silcolite is more a symbol of innovation, on-time delivery, newer products, and it is a symbol of trust for our customers. So that's how we have pegged it. That's what we believe in, and everything that we sell in our segment goes under this brand. And it has paid us rich dividends over the years, and it continues to be a very strong, you know, visible symbol for Pioneer Embroideries yarn business. So that's what Silcolite is for us
Then,
and for the customers.
what could be the outlook, for this, segment? As you said, yarn is around 88-89% of, can we expect margins in the coming year, that is FY22, could get better? Because, we have been hearing yarn prices are going up. Most of the textile companies, are making a lot of money. Margins are improving. So, in case of your company, can we assume that margins from the yarn business would get better now in FY22?
Yeah, margin. See, right now, if I talk of the last 2 quarters, the margins were extremely good. They were very good, numbers for us, both in terms of capacity utilization. Also, we were at almost 95% capacity utilization, and we do feel that. But if I see on an annualized basis, last year I think we were at about 84% capacity utilization. And then if we see for this year, right now we are at about 80%. So there is an inherent gap which can be addressed, which can be tapped into to give us a lot of growth in terms of while staying within the realm of whatever capacity we have. And then obviously there are elements where one could expand capacities and in due course of time to give the added growth. But we are very bullish on this segment, and we do see a lot of demand, especially from the home finishing and the carpet segment, the floor covering segment, and they're going to be good growth drivers for us and also for the industry.
Okay.
So we are very, very hopeful.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your answer, sir. My another question is, you mentioned that your capacity utilization has improved from 84% to 95%. Now tell me one thing. Now, in terms of capacity utilization for the coming year, with you operating, the company operating at 95%, what is the kind of scope for growth? Has there been any debottlenecking done, or some sort of capital expenditure done in the current year to ensure that we take the benefit of this demand? Because if capacity increases, then only I presume you all will be able to generate a higher top line. So any thoughts on this issue?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, the average capacity utilization for last year was 84%, but in the last 2 quarters we touched 94 and 95%. Right now, as I speak to you, we are at about 80% capacity utilization, obviously the COVID effect and all that. So that's why I say, because we have tested and reached 95, and right now we are at 80, we averaged at 84 last year. So there is a scope. There is a big scope. If I were to just sort of see the numbers or the growth pattern for the last 2 quarters, and and we do see a robust demand. So there is a reason to be bullish on this count. And as far as the expansion is concerned, yes, expansion is very important for any project. It's a part of your ongoing growth strategy. So that will come. We are, continuously you keep on thinking where all value add you can do, what more can you bring to the table for the customers. So we are constantly in that thought process, and we are already in advanced stages of ideating internally. And as and when it sort of firms up, we're going to be coming up with an announcement.
Fine. In fact, my other question to you is, now since you have told us about the kind of segments the company operates, can you tell us briefly across all the two categories which you mentioned, which are the companies which actually directly compete with you? So can you give us some idea, or maybe throw some idea on which are the kind of companies which actually compete in your business segments like?
Avinashi, in the sense, like I said, we operate in a niche segment, so it will be very difficult to sort of pick few names, because probably the growth path is a little different. But if I were to pick a few, let's say for yarn, there is a company called Dodia Chemtex. Then there is Creative Mills. Then Sujata Synthetics. These are a few names which come to my mind, top of my mind, and which are doing a good work in the segments. And we see them as our peers to that extent.
Business is concerned, where Pioneer has got a kind of a huge, legway. You got a very huge expertise in terms of your designs and technicians. I would wanting to know that is the competition here in this segment largely from the unorganized sector, or is it from some organized sector players also?
So depends the definition of organized and unorganized. If we were to say a sort of a limited company, that kind of a structure, not too many of them, I believe, except probably Alok. Alok has one unit for embroidery. But then there are some very good factories in Surat, and then there are some good units in Delhi NCR, which do sort of we do look up to them. They look up to us, and it's sort of a good healthy competition, and
Okay.
that's sort of a barometer of the competition for us in the
Okay.
segments that we are operating for embroidery.
Okay. Just one more curious question, Mr. Harshvardhan, is that since you say you operate in a niche market, can you give us some idea about, what is the kind of market opportunity for each of these products? Like what is, one could say, what is the size of the embroidery market, or maybe the size of the specialty yarn market? So one could get an understanding as to how, Pioneer has been, positioning itself. So if you can throw some idea, that how big the market could be, in your assessment, maybe in the next, say, 2 to 3 years.
Uh, Very difficult to put a number to the large to the market actually as a whole, because depends on various studies which have happened. But if one could go with based on the experience and the generally the market, what you see, the demand and the market is huge. Because let's say if I were to talk about yarn, who are my target customers? My target customers would be anyone who manufactures carpets or upholstery, tapestry. And then you could delve a little bit into technical side, because we are doing flame retardants, antimicrobial. So then hospitals could be there, or let's say some public transport who wants to do flame retardant, or hospitals, they all have to do flame retardant fabrics and curtains and all that. So we do manufacture that kind of yarn. So the possibilities are limitless, and especially because like the segment we operate in, like let's say we do almost 1200 colors. So you could come to me after 5 years later, give me your PO number and tell me, Harsh, I want the same color. And other companies are also able to do, but then the way we customize, or we could do the various range of the air texturized yarns that we do, they do make us a vendor of choice, let me put it this way, to a lot of our customers. And as far as embroidery is concerned, again, embroidery is not only used in domestic. Saris and salwar kameez dupatta is one one part of the spectrum. Then there is a huge market internationally. Let's all the brands, let's say Inditex, the makers of Zara, or a Gap, American Eagle, and Taylor. These guys, all big brands source out of India. So then the goods are manufactured with the various garment exporters across the country. And there's a huge amount of embroidery and laces which are used there. So so that market is also there. So there is no dearth for growth for anyone who sort of is doing the right work with right amount of innovation, customer connect. I don't see a dearth in the market. It's just, and yes, especially embroideries, we do get a lot of traction because we have a huge design library. We have more than 300,000 designs in our library. We continue to make new designs every single day, because all the factories, they have in-house designers. My head office also has designers. So we continue to innovate, continue to make new designs, and keep on adding. So that's what I mean, end of the day, for a customer, what value you bring to the table, and we would like to feel that we do add a lot of value to our customers, and that's why they are with us.
I think great. I think Mr. Harshvardhan nicely answered. I have a follow up query on this. See, now I agree to you that you operate in a niche market. Growth opportunities are quite large considering the inputs you told us. I was just looking at the financial performance, Mr. Harshvardhan. I was seeing that in 2014, your top line was about 273 crores, and for last year, that is FY21, of course, profitability has improved significantly. It's been about 225 crores. So any specific reason why this kind of performance from 2017, and now if we look at 2021, why has the top line remained more or less similar? In fact, it's come down. So any specific reasons for this?
Yes, 2014, if my memory serves me correct. So the embroidery turnover that time, I think, was almost 60 or 65 odd crores that year. Embroidery turnover for last year was maybe about 22 odd crores. So embroidery, there was a fall. And then you see, as far as yarn turnover is concerned, Avinashi, it's a function of the petrochemical prices, because my raw material is directly impacted. So larger, if the price goes up, and we can pass it on. It typically takes about 2 weeks, but then you pass it on to the customers, whether the price goes up or goes down, the input price. So that is a reflection. If the chips prices goes up, my turnover per se is going to go up, because the ticket size becomes larger, the billing becomes larger. And if it goes down, it goes down. But I would like to believe, and this is how we sort of, our thought process is, we are a EBITDA driven company. We like to focus on the bottom line. And we've seen a lot of ups and downs. And now for us, it doesn't make a difference whether the order is coming from Panama or Panipat. Whichever order is beneficial to the company in a larger strategy is where we go. And that's what has kept us in very good stead. And we've managed to cover a lot of headwinds and be where we are and who we are. I mean, it's been 3 decades. We've had more than our shares of ups and downs, but we are still standing here strong and raring to go. The fire is still burning very, very hard. So we are looking at good growth.
Exactly. I think, Mr. Harshvardhan, then, whatever margins we have recorded this year, that is about 12%, if I'm not wrong, kindly correct me. Uh, can we expect that these margins actually improve? Because, we have been hearing that pet chip prices, other, raw material prices have also been firming up. These are all crude derivatives. So,
Yeah.
with all these things in mind, can we expect that margins can be sustained, or maybe, we could expect some sort of softening, if these raw material prices go up? And one follow-up question to this is how, what is the kind of pricing power, you have? Like, do you have enough pricing power to, increase it if the raw material price goes up?
Okay. So one, yes, definitely that is the idea. We would want to not only maintain the growth but better it. As far as the crude prices are concerned, and you're very right in your assessment, they have been largely stable, $60 to $70 kind of a situation, and some studies say it might go up to 80. But yes, we so the kind of market we operate in, you are able to pass through, like I mentioned earlier. So if the prices go up, we should be able to pass through. So largely keeping our margins intact. And COVID has also taught us a lot. We During this period, we spent a lot of time looking at our processes, sort of with a at a micro level, and seeing how we can better it, how one could do something in a much shorter time, how to operate in a more cost efficient manner, optimizing cost would be a much better word, is what we managed to do. And we are hoping that the best practices continue. And this is what our communication internally is, right down the ranks, that this process needs to continue, the innovation needs to continue, and that will add directly to the bottom line. And we should be in a good place, definitely in a good place.
I was seeing another interesting thing, Mr. Harshvardhan, that your debt on the books have come down quite significantly. 5 years back, it was about 70 crores. As of March 21, it is around 24-25 crores. So it's a very good achievement. In fact, that shows that, the management has been very frugal in using debt. In fact, most of the debt has been repaid. Now, tell me one thing, that going forward, you all have been talking about now some expansion, which you said, which will be very soon announced. Now, will you be looking at, largely, some sort of further debt on the books to fund it? And secondly, in the business of yours, what is the normal cash conversion cycle? Right from the time you manufacture it, sell it to the dealer, and then the dealer gives you money. What is the average cash conversion cycle period, for the last year?
So, on an average, for SPFY, it's about 45 to 60 days for the polyester yarn segment, and for embroideries, it's about 3 months, 90 days period from start to finish and recovery part.
Okay.
Yes, the debt has come down. It's been by choice, by strategy. We wanted to be in a very comfortable position, and that is what actually helped us survive the COVID and the other headwinds which came. We've had GST, demonetization, COVID one, COVID two is going on, and so we've been extremely frugal, as you rightly said, and we aim to maximize every asset. We spend a lot of time on shop floor, Avinashi. We spend a lot of time in smaller details, and because we had a lot of debt earlier, we were quite leveraged, and we realized that the the way forward would be to keep it to bare minimum. We will definitely use it, obviously, as a vehicle to our expansion. And every expansion, when we've done, we've always taken it in isolation. So we don't see that what we've been doing and will it contribute? No. The expansion has to contribute to the cost for that particular expansion. So yes, we will take debt. We would definitely need debt. There'll be a combination of internal and accruals and the debt, but at the right time and the right amount. And like I said, I mean, we are right now ideating. As and when we firm up, we will announce. Right now, we are just ideating how and when of the expansion. We're trying to figure out the best mix and the best time.
Okay. Now tell me one thing, Mr. Harshvardhan. I was also looking at some operating profitability parameters like your return on equity. Now, can you tell us something that in terms of ROE, what is the message which you would like to give your shareholders? Because as you understand, ROE in the business is very important, to make it attractive for the shareholders as well as for the business. So, can you give us some thoughts on this number? Maybe over the next, say, 2 to 3 years. We are not looking at short-term targets, but over the next 2-3 years, you all have achieved a lot in the last 30 years. FY21 has been very good. So, can we expect that this ROE number can be sustained and get better over the years?
I think for us, the sweet spot would be around 20%. We feel that that's a number we should be able to sustain. ROE of about 20% or thereabouts. We are, I think, for this year, we were at about 19%. We managed a 19%. Year before that, we were at 10%. So that's where we feel we would definitely want to make our efforts in the right direction and stay focused on towards that, and how to maximize it, how to better it. Like I said, we are a EBITDA-driven company. We would like to better all the parameters. Not so if everything else is falling in place, this is a sort of a natural fallout. This will fall in place too. So it's not just this. We will have to take care of all the small elements. Like I said, we are focused on smaller picture too. So we like to focus on all small things, big and small, which contribute to the larger picture. So if it's a right color mix, the picture is going to be beautiful.
Okay.
That's the idea.
Okay. Thank you very much for the answer, Harshvardhan ji. Last question is basically again related to shareholders. What message, Mr. Harshvardhan, you will be giving to the shareholders of the company? If you see the dividend track record, I think dividends have not been great, to be very honest, although the business is really promising. So going forward, in the next, say, 2 to 3 years, has the company decided any dividend policy, or do you think dividends can be better? Because that is something the market should obviously also like from your side.
We would definitely like them to be better. We, after a long gap, we declared a dividend. We declared a dividend, a small one though. So, but every small step is important in our thought process. And the idea would be to make it better and more meaningful to everyone, because see, shareholders are the stakeholders. I mean, They are a very important part of the business, and the idea would be to maximize the returns to them. And we would make all the efforts, all the endeavors, and we've covered a long way, Avinashi, from where we were to where we are now, and the time in between. And we've had shareholders who've been with us for a very fairly long time, and they would understand. I hope they understand that it's been a very uh, very long and a journey with a lot of hard work, and we would aim to make them make it beneficial for them move forward.
I think thank you very much, Mr. Harshvardhan. I think it was a great, conversation and a pleasure to talk to you. I think we'll definitely look forward for better numbers from your company for the further quarters also, and best wishes to you and your entire team. So, friends,
Thank you.
thank you very much, and I hope all of you enjoyed the show.
Thank you, Avinash.